Components. When you're starting out, components can be a really hard concept to grasp, but they're a skill that you need to master. So today I'm going to be showing you how to use components at the beginner level, the mid-level, and the advanced level, and show you examples along the way. Today we're going to be talking about components. And contrary to popular belief, you don't actually need to know how to use components at an advanced level to get your first job as a designer. For the most part, a lot of people fake it till they make it. Of course, you need the basic skills, but honestly, the way that you develop your skills is on the job. I would say that we have three types of people. The first one is like more beginner level, and these people tend to componentize entire elements. So they design the element first, they componentize the whole thing, and then they duplicate it across their designs. Our second group of people are people who not only use components, but they use variants. They create their element, componentize it, and then they have variations or different states of that same element to account for different user flows. And then we have our third group of people who build components made up of other components.
As a beginner, the easiest way to incorporate components into your designs is to create your entire element, such as this card over here, and to componentize the whole thing so that you can use it over and over again throughout your designs and throughout multiple screens without actually having to remake it. So what we have here are a bunch of different elements, and we're going to put them all together and then componentize. So here I've got some headers, some subheaders, some icons, and some basic buttons. So what I'm gonna do is put everything into auto layout, and then I will componentize it. So the way you can put it into auto layout is you're going to select your item, you're going to hit Shift so that you can select multiple things, and I'm going to hit Shift A to put these two things in a frame together. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change the spacing to maybe something like 8 pixels so that they're closer together. And then I'm going to select everything else that I want to be within my card. So I have the headers, the icon, and the button. So I'm going to hit Shift A again. Now these are all in auto layout together, so I can easily move things around without having to worry about spacing and things not being an equal distance apart from each other. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm probably going to adjust the spacing of this just because it's quite large. So let's see, I could play around with numbers, or I could just hold down my cursor and go left and right and just see what I like. So I'll just do maybe 52. Yeah, that looks okay. And then I'm going to fill in the background just so I can see it a little better. I'm gonna make it white. Looks like things are pretty tight here, so let's add some breathing room. Maybe we can do 24 and 24. Okay, so this is where our card's at. Let's curve the corners a little bit. Maybe I'll do 8. And there's my card. So now that I have my entire element together, I can now componentize it. But first let's relabel. So I'm just gonna put it as a custom folders card. And then I will go to the component button up top. I will click it. And now this is a component. I can just head into the assets panel, type in the name. So it's custom folders card. There it is. I can grab it, plop it into my frame here. And there's my component. I can easily duplicate this and put it here. I can put this into a frame as well, and so on and so forth. And you can just keep reusing the component and you don't have to recreate it. Now, designers who have a bit more experience might utilize a tool called component variants. Essentially what that is a collection of components that you can swap in and out for each other throughout your designs. And this is really handy for if you want to have multiple cards that have similar styling, but you don't want to have to remake it every single time it shows up in a design. Or it could also be used to show different states. So we already have our main component here. We're just going to make a couple of variations now. I'm going to call this custom drawings card. I will componentize it. And next, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to duplicate both of these. I am going to detach them just so I can play around with the buttons. So for this one, let's say I want to have a disabled state for these buttons. I'm going to change the color of this to maybe 50% opacity. I'm going to do the same for this one here. Change the label to disabled. And disabled. So in that case, I should change this to enabled. Enabled. You want to have everything have a unique name. And these are no longer components, so what we're going to do is componentize them. So here's number 1, and here's number 2. Now we have 4 components. We're going to select all, and we're going to hit the button that says Combine as Variants. You'll want to relabel this, so I'll just put cards. And you'll see that when I select this, I'll see all of the different options. Of course, it's always a good idea to relabel your properties so that they have more context. So here we've got 2 properties. We've got like the button status, and we've also got the card type. So we've got like this custom folders card type and the drawings card type. So I guess I would just label it card, and the next one would be called status. So of course, if I click on each individual one, you'll see what the type is. So this one is card type custom folders and status enabled. This one is card type custom folders status disabled. Here we have the drawings one enabled and drawings disabled. So now if I go back to that original design that I had made where I was using this component, I can easily swap things out without having to remake anything, without having to hunt for the other components. I just have to click into it. It shows me on the side which component this is. So this is custom folders card enabled, which is this one over here. But let's say I want to see the custom folders disabled pattern here. All I have to do is select it in my drop down over here to disabled, and the design will appear. Same goes for this card down here. Let's say I want to try for the drawings one in the enabled state. So it's already enabled here. I'm going to change it to drawings, and there we have it. So what I've done here is I've broken down my card element into its atomic pieces. I know that my card is going to need a header and a subheader, so I've made a component for that. I know that there's going to be an area where I'm going to have the graphics. So what I have is an area block component that's just going to be the default that I will swap in and out for my various graphics, like my folder, my book, my pencil, etc. And I also have a button component where I have my primary and secondary variant. And now what I'm going to do is combine these into a component. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to my assets panel and type in the name of the components that I've built. So I'm looking for the button block heading block. So let's type in heading block. Here it is. I'm going to get my area block, which I actually already see. So let's just grab that. And there we have 3 components that we're going to combine to make our main component. So let's highlight all of these, hit Shift A. We're going to add a fill. Okay. I'm going to name this to root because I'm gonna be making a bunch of components based off of this component. So I'm gonna put dot root, and then I'm gonna put card. Oops. I'm going to make it a component. Now that I have this, I'm going to duplicate 2 times so that I can make 2 different components. And what's good about this is these are both based off of this component. So if I make a change here, it'll reflect here. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's do some labeling. I'm gonna call this light. And this one, I'm gonna call this dark. So these are my real components, so that's why they don't have the word root in front of them. So let's change this up a little so it does actually look like a dark mode one. So we have our light mode and our dark mode. So let's say I've made the design, I've realized that the subtext is too tiny and I want it to be bigger. And I have several screens like this. So let's duplicate, I have 3 screens, but I don't want to go through every single screen and update the font size. That's just so much work. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go over to the main component that I made and I'm going to change it here. And the change here should reflect into the root component that I made. And because these main card components are based off of this should change as well. And because these components come from here, everything should change. So let's bump this up to 50 and see what happens. So I'm bumping up this component to 50, and there you go. The change takes place everywhere. This makes changes and iterations down the road so much easier and so much faster. So let's undo that though, because it's not very nice. Now let's see what it looks like if, I decide that on this design, I want this space, the area block, to actually be the pencil graphic. So I'm gonna go into my side panel here. I'm gonna click the drop down. It says swap instance. I wanna swap my area block placeholder with the graphic component that I made. So this graphic component, I'm gonna click graphics, and here I have all of my choices. So let me swap it to the pencil. Perfect. Now, let's say that I don't like that this is in light mode and I want it to be in dark mode. Let's make that change. Because this was a variant, I can easily just swap it from light to dark. There we go. Now let's say that down the road, like a few weeks pass and I realize, oh, I need another card type. I need a card type that has like a red background. All I have to do is go over to my card component. I'm going to expand the area. I'm going to click the plus, and I'm going to play around with this one now. I'm going to call it red. Okay, here we go. Red. So now I have a red component, and all I have to do is, if I want all of my screens to have a red component now, all I have to do is swap it out. So I'm gonna swap it from light to red. I'm gonna swap this one from light to red. I'm gonna swap this one from light to red. And that is how easy it is to swap out designs because you have components made up of other components. Let's try this again with something that is within the actual component. So the primary CTA. Let's say that I need a default, or not a default, I need a disabled state of the primary CTA button. I'm gonna head over to the component where I have all of my buttons. I'm going to add a variant. I'm going to call it disabled, and then let's change it up a bit. And that's my disabled button. Highlight the button. And I'm going to go over to my side panel, swap it out, because now my component has not just a primary, secondary, but there's also a disabled button. Okay, there we go. And that's how easy it is. Let's say now down the road you realize that you need another graphic. You need another image choice. So let's just extend this. Let's find something to plug in here. I'm gonna make this a component. I'm going to bring it into here. And what should happen is I should have a new drop-down item when I check my graphics. So let's look to the side, and there we go, Charco Education. And that, my friends, is how easy your workflow can become if you use atomic componentizing in your designs.
That's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe, and share. I'll see you next time. Bye.